Hi everyone, welcome to Beyond the Bedside. I'm Betty Long, and with me is my colleague, Rebecca Zarkowski. Welcome.
Hello, hello. Thank you, Betty.
Rebecca and I are here to talk to you today, just kind of riff on a topic that's I'm passionate about. I know that you are as well. Violence against nurses. So we have been in nursing for many years. I have been a nurse 39 years.
Only 23 for me. Career change.
Okay. So
I'm a baby.
We've been working in healthcare for a long time, both in hospital and out of hospital, which is why we're calling this podcast Beyond the Bedside.
Beyond the Bedside.
We've worked together for 10 years at Guardian Nurses, just helping patients through the healthcare system and navigating their way. And in the last year or two, probably since COVID, maybe?
After 2020, yeah, is when we noticed it more.
Yeah, we've noticed an alarming increase in the amount of incivility that is being directed at healthcare workers and particularly nurses. And the recent stat that I've used is every 25 minutes a nurse is assaulted. And when I've talked to my friends who are not in healthcare, they have been extremely surprised at that statistic. Have you talked about that with your family?
Because I was an ER nurse, I think I was a little bit more vocal about it a long time ago, just because when you're in like an ER or a trauma bay, that's the first line of any violence traditionally, right? Or it's signs of violence. Anyway, so in the ER, for years it's been so prevalent. But since, I agree with you, since 2020, not just in healthcare, right? Across the community, society. When you go out to stores, when you're on the phone with customer service or people are angry and you can feel it. There's that energy and people have lost, what did you say, civility? Right. Which was a great word. Yeah. The problem in healthcare is when you are when you are serving healthcare and you're on the receiving end of even thinking somebody may harm you or one of your colleagues. The care that you're giving to that patient and every other patient you have is going to be compromised, right? So we're talking about the safety of nurses, but from the people who are going to listen to this, understanding how that impacts what you're receiving as well. Yeah. Right.
Because you don't know if I know particularly there was an incident at Temple Hospital that we heard about where an ER nurse, to your point, was assaulted by a patient. And fortunately someone from security intervened, but that's got to last. That's got to stay with you.
Right.
The next time you go into a patient's room or somebody similar, right, where it's a similar age and gender, you're thinking, okay, wait a minute.
Could this happen?
Right. Has it ever happened to you? What's your experience?
For me personally, yes, I was assaulted once. I'm going to be honest. I think I should have been a little smarter. It was a mental health patient who was well known to us, but was roaming the hallway, and we had beds lining the hallway, and you have to worry about like all the HIPAA and health information. And so when I went to just let him know, to go back into his room, his back was turned and I touched him. And so I know better than that. I have watched and helped colleagues that are being assaulted for unjust reasons.
And I know, I guess it was a couple months ago, which has kind of initiated the project that we've been working on to protect our nurses. When we asked our team here, and there were at the time 49 nurses, and we asked them, who among you has been a victim of violence in the hospital? And I think
everyone
almost everyone raised their hand, and that really impacted me. Like
you took off. That was all you needed. You were like, okay,
right, we got to do something about this. And that's when the Protect Our Nurses campaign, right? So we've done a billboard campaign. We're going to do a public service announcement video on that. We've done a change.org petition. which I think right of this now, I think there's maybe 1,700 signatures, and we're hoping to get the attention of the co-sponsors down in Washington of the bill, both in the Senate and the House. But
hi, if you're watching.
So currently, the bill, as my understanding is that it's being held up in the Judiciary Committee by Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio, and I think there's been efforts to try to get that taken out, because we went down to Washington in June. Right, with the AONL group.
We did.
And visited with
Congress. Well, with all different, like I had different reps than you had.
Okay.
But our representatives in favor trying to get signatures.
Well, and that's why I'm so flummoxed by that. Like, I think this is a no-brainer, right? Violence against healthcare workers or violence against nurses should be a bipartisan.
You would think.
We are here to protect you because you take care of us, which I don't understand. Like, this is a no-brainer. Now, I understand there's some concern about, to your point, mental health patients, right? That was the concern that we heard in Washington. Mental health, dementia.
Yeah.
Nurses are not, they understand.
That's not what we're talking about.
Correct, right? You say that you knew better.
Absolutely.
Not to go up to a patient who might be frightened and turn around and assault you, but we understand when patients have dementia that they're not functioning on all cylinders.
Correct.
And they're not, right. We're talking about the
patients and family members who are frustrated and have lost their ever-loving minds and feel that the way to get what they need and want is to be seen and heard. And the first line of contact traditionally is, patient techs and nursing, LPNs, transport. When you think about, the percentages, and I'd have to look it up, of where the violence is occurring, that's where it's occurring. And it's happening not just by patients, but their loved ones. And listen, it's not right. It's not right. But if you go down to the very bottom of what's causing it and what's creating this, it's a failed system. And so waiting 24 hours in a waiting room to be triaged, then be put in a hallway bed, and the doctor or NP or PA are assessing you in a hallway at a chair with a little computer, that it becomes where they feel, a patient may feel, or a caregiver might feel like they're not seen and heard, when in fact there's so many people to see and hear. There has to be some structure and standardization to it as well. And now, we could go on forever. Hospitals closing in rural communities, and that's totally impacting, our urban and city hospital wait times. And it doesn't matter if you have insurance or not. That's the truth. You're being triaged based on need.
Well, the episode of The Pit, which is that new show,
I'm going to watch that,
where the ER waiting room is jammed for hours, and the charge nurse, Dana, keeps coming out to kind of communicate.
Pacify.
Right, to talk, okay, we're still working, and that one patient just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. And finally, right, he leaves, because she says, stay, we're getting to you. I think he might have had chest pain. I don't think he had. He was not triaged to the top. And then he walks outside while she's out, and he hits her. He just clocks her. And she comes in, her eyes bleeding, her nose is bleeding. And it was to that point, it was the episode of all these patients are stocked in the waiting room, and they're taking the urgent and emergent patients, but the patients that were just there because they had a cold were waiting. Mm-hmm. Remember that case, when we asked our team what incidents had happened to them. After that team meeting, about three of our team came up to tell me their personal stories. One was pregnant at the time when she was working on a med-surg floor, and a patient grabbed a knife and tried to stab her abdomen. Fortunately, he got tangled up in the sheets and tripped coming out of the bed. That would have been one pretty egregious, violent episode.
Stabbed with what?
the knife
from the lunch.
from the
Wow.
Yeah. Fortunately, he missed. But nothing was done to the patient.
And she went right back to work.
Right. Down the
I'm
hall.
sure, right? Right, the next room.
Another nurse shared a story. She worked at a hospital in New Jersey where she was punched. Right. So the assault that we're talking about is not just bad language or cursing at you.
Right, that's become isn't even. It used to be verbal assault. There was
like
actually
nothing.
consequences to that when you worked in healthcare. Now that's not even on the radar. The abuse, the verbal abuse, is just like everybody's accepting of it now, including physician, anybody, everybody. You try and bring down that energy, but it's going to happen, and you're like, okay, I understand. You're annoyed, okay. But it used to be that was really the worst of it, was the verbal assault, and the outlier was physical. And I feel like it's not an outlier anymore.
Well, besides family members and patients, it's also coming internally, where maybe physicians are being aggressive.
Yes, we just heard that. Yes,
right. And I just heard a story where a surgeon, it's always the surgeons, right, in the OR, yelling at an OR nurse. And that culture has been accepted until you get leadership in there who are going to say, no, you can't act like this to your colleagues, right? I mean, I had an anesthesiologist once rip into me, and I was just like, sorry, I'm not going to talk to you. You need to chill out. I'm going to walk away, and if you can calm down, we can have a conversation.
Right.
But a lot of nurses don't feel empowered to do that, sadly, right? They just kind of smush it, to your point, go back to work, go back to the bedside, store it in. But over time, that's got to
weigh on you.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, it changes the care. It changes the care that you deliver. It changes the empathy. It changes.
I was going to say, do you think that contributes to the lack of compassion?
Yes.
Well, that makes me sad.
Because I'm saying that happened with verbal assaulting, like where we've just become like, whatever.
Right.
I don't care. I got to just keep taking care of people. Like we took an oath, and I think that for the most part in our profession, we respect that oath. So no, it wouldn't. What do you do? Because the oath is to provide care, safety, for people. Nowhere in our oath does it say to advocate for yourself that you're treated like a human being.
Well, because when the oath was written, it was 18.
Yeah, right. For a bunch of women. For a bunch of women.
Nobody was yelling at each other. Or
shooting or stabbing each other.
Exactly. Right. It was a different time back then.
Yeah.
But I think that has contributed, not only has it contributed to the lack of compassion, the lack of empathy, but I also think it's contributed to the lack of people entering the profession. Right? When you read about all the attacks on nurses or see them attacks on nurses, why would you want to enter a profession? Right? When the nurse down in Palm Beach was brutally assaulted.
That was the worst.
The picture of her in the ICU.
You should look that up.
Published by her daughter was awful. It made me want to throw up that this woman endured that kind of assault. Beaten like she was almost blind. So I can't imagine the amount of force and the fear that she had, that she was assaulted like that in a safe place. York Hospital, Penn. There's instances. I think that I don't know what the solution is other than to have some sort of federal law that says you can't assault a healthcare worker, much like happens with the airline industry. You cannot assault a flight attendant or, God forbid, a captain, something. You're off the plane.
That's funny because when we were in Washington, remember when we were working leading up to our day on Capitol Hill, and a lot of what was recommended is like we should address that there's that federal law for flight attendants and pilots, and I felt like, okay, I'm lost here. Why do we have to show, like, we're public servants? Like, why do we even have to justify it? But then we just recently took a flight home, and I have to tell you, after I got off the plane and thought, wow, they really do anything, because you had told me the story of a health need, a health emergency on your flight out there.
Right.
And that nobody would have known about it. The flight attendants took care of it. It was a seizure or what, and it was completely like the front of the plane had no idea. And then you start to think, okay, that's why. So I take back my thinking, like, why would we have to justify safety as public servants? Because police officers, and I feel like, I don't know what happens with teachers necessarily, but I do feel like there should be some protections in place when you're keeping your communities healthy and safe.
Well, and I think hospitals sometimes get the blame because they don't have enough security or something. But for years, they didn't need security. They didn't need armed security. They didn't need. Now you have to walk through a metal detector, right? And then I think that happened recently where there was a hospital who didn't have metal protectors at the front door or even at the ER because they didn't like the look that it gave to patients or families coming in, that there was a metal detector. And who cares what it looks like? Are you keeping your people safe? This was a hospital in a pretty rough neighborhood. So put the metal detectors up. Spend the money.
It looks like you care. That's what it looks like. It looks like you care about people's safety when you have that.
Right. Anyway, maybe somebody can design a metal detector that's kind of unobtrusive.
Cool looking.
Walk through it and like, oh, that was nice.
The Mercedes of metal detectors, like,
So I don't know what the answer is other than to first start with some sort of penalty, like a law that says you can't hit a healthcare worker, whether it's a nurse or a doctor or a transport aide, right? A nurse's aide. You just can't hit them.
So here's my question. This most recent PSA that you filmed, that's going to be going out, if you could have one outcome as a result of that, one law, one positive that comes out of this.
A positive would be to get it onto Fox News and for Representative Jordan to see it and be moved to action and bring it to the floor of the House, where it would go to 435 votes to 0 in favor.
Hashtag Jordan. Hashtag, we can put that in there so it gets, we have to put the right, whatever it is, ad or hashtag.
Yeah, that would be great. If we could just get it out of committee to vote, because I think I'm sure there's going to be tweaks because some were concerned that it didn't necessarily protect mental health patients and didn't protect elderly, but we can work all that out. And nurses are not going to bring charges against a mentally ill patient or someone with dementia, right? We understand that.
Correct.
They're not of right mind, but the family member who's just angry that his mom or dad or wife hasn't been seen, that's not okay, right?
It's not okay.
Not okay.
And those wait times are getting longer.
They're going to
Much
get
shorter.
longer.
And they're going to get longer.
In the past, what has happened when nurses tell their supervisors?
So I've seen, it depends on the nursing leader, right? Where the incident I told you about, we shared about the nurse who was almost stabbed in her abdomen, her supervisor did very little. In fact, went to talk to the patient and bring him tea because he was upset. So that didn't go well for the nurse. But the other incident where the surgeon was yelling at the OR nurse, the chief nurse stepped in and said, "You can't treat my nurses like that." So I think it depends on the administration and the culture in the hospital or in the facility, whether it's an outpatient facility.
And if they report it, if it's reported too, I think sometimes, to your point, like sometimes you see over and over again if there isn't a result, so then you don't report it, and then nothing can be done because you're assuming that nobody's going to care.
Well, but correct. So if you feel like they don't care and they really don't care, then maybe you don't work there.
Yeah.
Right? But if you care, and I think that if nurses know that there is a facility, for instance, that does care,
Right.
they're going to like, okay, you got my back? Got it. I'm going to report it. But I think that's part of why the law is important to have, that you feel like there's something at the end of the line. Whether it's the hospital, if I can report it as an offense, as a federal offense, I think hospitals are going to step up a little bit and be more attentive to their staff, because it's going to look bad. And maybe if we start reporting on how many
Is actually happening.
yeah, then right when people become more aware of it, hopefully it changes, because it's violence. It's not like something positive.
Yeah. No, it's not.
So I think did you report your incident?
So it was, everyone saw it. It was like right in the middle of the ER, and one physician, two physicians were like on the other side of the desk. One jumped the desk and helped me and got him off of me. I honestly don't think anything else was done. Now that you're asking me, I feel like no.
So were you injured as a result?
Yeah. But not like out of work injured. Like it hurt my neck. Like it was like, and he just kept hitting me here. Oh, maybe that's why I always have neck pain here, right? Like, isn't that funny? What's wrong with the sun? This is the
I'm glad we're talking about this.
You know how I'm always like, I can't turn my head and I'm in pain.
Yeah.
But no, and we all went back to work, and the patient was back, and we got a 1-to-1 at that time. There was staffing for 1-to-1s, which is when you have a patient that could be a danger to themselves or someone else, and doesn't have the capability of making good decisions, putting other people at risk. We will have a tech or a nurse, some healthcare employee come in and sit in the room and be a vision, an oversight to make sure that the patient doesn't do anything that would be risky.
Yeah, and with short staffing, there's not room.
Not
for
many
one,
of that,
not
right?
Many of that. And in a case where it's a physically, like a large aggressive patient, a nurse's aide not going to be much help, right? So, but we have to rethink that in terms of reporting, in terms of punitive ramifications of being violent in a healthcare facility.
It's ridiculous that we're talking about this.
I know. But we have to do something about it. We can't just sit and keep saying.
That's why there's Betty Long.
Well, there's other organizations
I'm
too
doing
that
it
are
as
trying.
well. I know.
But after seeing our team that day, I thought, this is ridiculous. I did not realize, right? Because my clinical bedside days were way back.
Yeah.
And it was not physical violence. It was verbal. It was, cursing at us, get the F off, get out of my room. I don't want, it was just cursing. And you could say, look, I'm not going to come back
in here unless you calm
unless
down.
you calm down. And most people did. But not now. I suspect it's probably a lot different. And I think, again, back to the younger nurses who are at bedside do not feel empowered. They barely know what, their day is going to look like. And then to have more patients, potentially more aggressive or more uncivil patients, it's a recipe for a nightmare. I remember one of my friends who's a chief nurse at a large academic center was telling me that one of his younger nurses went into a room, and the woman was mad because the patient was mad because she wasn't getting pain medicine, so she just threw herself on the bed. Or on the floor. Just rolled herself off onto the floor, and then was banging on the floor with something and was acting out. And the young nurse came out and said, I don't know how to deal with this. They didn't teach us.
Like a tantrum, like a full-blown tantrum.
Right, a tantrum. And she's like, I don't know how to deal with it. They didn't teach us this in nursing school, right? And now, I wonder, the curriculums in nursing school, I wonder if they are talking about it. I remember somebody told us that they did a nursing student came out and was interviewing for her first job, and she asked the interviewer, "What are you doing to protect your nurses?" So somebody's talking about it in nursing school, right? So if they're starting to talk about it or reading about it, right? If they're or watching social media where there's more information about it, maybe they are asking. Maybe it's coming to the forefront.
Maybe the pit will help.
The pit, I think, will definitely help.
A lot of people watch that. They show enough of that kind of stuff.
And she won an Emmy. She won an Emmy, maybe for that episode. I don't know, though, but that was a pretty powerful episode.
I'll watch it.
And she comes back, to your point. She comes back on shift, right? Noah Wiley's character sends her home, but she comes back. And then she starts talking about retiring, but I think in season 2, I don't think I'm spoiling this.
I haven't watched it.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, no, that would be a spoiler alert.
Never mind. So I think, to your point, like TV often, like it reflects what's going on. And I think Noah Wiley, as the executive producer, is committed to talking about protecting healthcare workers. And
his mom was a nurse, right?
Right, and honoring them. And the way you honor them is to keep them safe. So, anyway.
Hashtag Noah Wiley.
Hashtag
Help
Noah.
us out.
Yes.
Hashtag Noah Wiley.
Hashtag Noah
us
Wiley.
out?
Help
Okay.
us out. So, Betty,
Yeah.
I think we have thousands of people watching us right now who want to know what they can do to help the nurses and healthcare
Great
workers
question.
in their life.
I would ask those of you who want to support this initiative to go to protectournurses.com. That'll lead you to the change.org petition, and you can sign it. And as we generate more signatures, we can take it down to Washington and show them that people do care, right? They may not care right now, but they will care when their constituents sign. So I think that's one little way to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Just keep chipping away. And I think we have a lot more to talk about.
A lot
besides this. So
yeah, this was like our launching, right? Our soft launch.
we're just warming up. We're warming up. So hopefully you'll tune in again to listen to Rebecca and I go beyond the bedside.